The future of the Catholic Church is being shaped right now, and it's the voices of young people that could change everything. Across continents, Catholic youth are speaking out about Cardinal Tagle and Pope Leo XIV, revealing hopes, doubts, and dreams that the world cannot ignore. From the streets of Manila to the heart of Seoul, from social media feeds to World Youth Day gatherings, the next generation is demanding a church that listens, welcomes, and leads with courage. Their passion and honesty will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Church's future. This is not just a story. It's a turning point. Subscribe now and share your thoughts below. What kind of church do you want to see? Part 1. The Voice of a New Generation. Why Young Catholics Matter. Across the world, the Catholic Church is experiencing a generational awakening. In parishes, schools, youth groups, and online communities, young Catholics are stepping forward as never before. They are not only inheriting a centuries-old faith tradition, they are actively shaping its future with their questions, their creativity, and their desire for authenticity. In this era of rapid change, the voices of young Catholics matter more than ever, especially as the Church welcomes a new Pope, Leo XIV, and continues to be inspired by the enduring presence of Cardinal Tagle. Why do young Catholics matter so much today? The answer lies in the unique moment the Church finds itself in. The world is changing at a dizzying pace. Technology connects people across continents in seconds. Global migration is reshaping communities, and issues like climate change, social justice, and mental health are at the forefront of young people's lives. For many, faith is not simply a set of inherited rituals or doctrines. It is a living journey, a search for meaning, belonging, and purpose. Young Catholics want a church that listens to their questions, welcomes their doubts, and walks with them as they navigate the joys and struggles of modern life. The election of Pope Leo XIV and the ongoing influence of Cardinal Tagle have brought these questions to the surface. Both leaders are seen as symbols of change and continuity, hope and challenge. For young Catholics, they represent different but complementary models of leadership. Pope Leo XIV. The first American pope is viewed as a bridge builder, a man of quiet strength and global experience. Cardinal Tagle, often called the Asian Francis, is beloved for his warmth, humility, and deep connection to the poor and marginalized. Together, they embody the Church's desire to remain rooted in tradition while reaching out to a new generation. In youth groups and campus ministries from Manila to Madrid, from Lagos to Los Angeles, young Catholics are asking, what kind of church will we inherit? Will it be a place of welcome justice and participation? Will it address the realities of our lives? Mental health, sexuality, social media, and the search for identity with honesty and compassion. Will it empower us not just as future leaders, but as protagonists of faith today? These questions are not abstract. They are lived every day by young people who struggle with the pressures of school, family, and society, who face discrimination or exclusion because of who they are, who long for a faith community that is more than just a Sunday obligation. For many, the Church is both a source of comfort and a place of challenge, a family that sometimes feels distant, yet still holds the promise of belonging and purpose. The rise of digital technology has transformed how young Catholics engage with their faith. Social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have become spaces where young people share prayers, debate, church teaching, and organize for social change. The papal conclave that elected Leo XIV was followed in real time by millions of young Catholics around the globe who shared their reactions, hopes, and memes online. Digital evangelists and influencers are reaching youth where they are blending humor, storytelling, and spiritual depth. But the digital world is not without its challenges. Misinformation, polarization, and the temptation to superficiality are real dangers. Young Catholics are acutely aware of the need for authenticity. They can sense when leaders are out of touch or when messages ring hollow. They long for a church that is honest about its failures, transparent about its processes, and willing to listen to critique. For many, the credibility of church leaders depends less on their titles and more on their willingness to walk humbly, admit mistakes, and accompany people in their struggles. Cardinal Tagle's approach has resonated deeply with young people. His style is relational and empathetic. He listens more than he speaks, laughs easily, and is not afraid to show vulnerability. In gatherings like World Youth Day, he encourages youth to be influencers for Christ, using their gifts and platforms to spread the gospel, care for creation, and stand up for justice. He refuses to label or judge, instead inviting everyone into a journey of faith marked by humility and mercy. For many young Catholics, Tagle represents the hope of a church that is humble, inclusive, and willing to walk with all. Pope Leo XIV, meanwhile, is seen as a leader who understands the global nature of the Church. His experience as a missionary and as a Vatican official has given him a broad perspective, and his election has inspired hope among young Catholics that the Church can be both ancient and ever new. Many are watching to see how he will address the issues that matter most to them: the inclusion of women and marginalized groups, the fight for justice and peace, and the need for a church that is both united and diverse. Young Catholics are not afraid to challenge authority, but they also yearn for spiritual depth and authentic witness. They want leaders who are honest about the Church's wounds, abuse, exclusion, and hypocrisy, but who also point to the healing power of Christ. They are eager to be part of a faith community that values their voices, empowers them as leaders, and trusts them to shape the future. In conversations with young Catholics from around the world, several themes emerge. First, there is a desire for a church that listens. Many youth feel that their questions and concerns are not always taken seriously by older generations or by church leaders. They want to be heard, not just as future leaders, but as full members of the body of Christ today. Second, there is a longing for a church that welcomes young Catholics come from diverse backgrounds and experiences, and many have felt excluded because of their identity, their questions, or their struggles. They want a church that is open to all, that celebrates diversity, and that accompanies people on their journey no matter where they are. Third, there is a hope for a church that empowers. Young people want to be trusted with real responsibility, not just as altar servers or choir members, but as leaders, decision-makers, and agents of change. They want to be part of a church that is not afraid to innovate, to take risks, and to dream big. Finally, there is a call for a church that is authentic. Young Catholics are looking for leaders who are humble, honest, and willing to admit mistakes. They want a church that is not afraid to confront its own failures, to seek forgiveness, and to begin again. For them, authenticity is the key to credibility and the foundation for a faith that can withstand the storms of modern life. As the Church moves forward under the leadership of Pope Leo XIV, and with the inspiration of Cardinal Tagle, the voices of young Catholics will be more important than ever. They are not just the future of the Church. They are its present, its conscience, and its hope. Their questions, dreams, and demands for authenticity are a gift to the whole Church, calling it to be more humble, more welcoming, and more courageous in following Christ. In the end, the story of young Catholics today is a story of hope. It is the story of a new generation that refuses to settle for easy answers or empty rituals, but instead seeks a living encounter with God and with one another. It is a story of faith that is both ancient and new, rooted in tradition, but open to the surprises of the Spirit. And it is a story that is still being written by every young person who dares to believe, to question, and to dream of a church that truly reflects the love of Christ. Part 2, Tagle, a Shepherd for the Digital Age, for young Catholics around the world. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle stands out as a leader who truly understands their journey. In an era defined by rapid technological change, global connectivity, and shifting cultural landscapes, Tagle's pastoral style and personal witness have made a deep impression on youth across continents, especially in Asia and the global South. He is not just a church official. For many, he is a spiritual companion, a mentor, and a model of what it means to be a disciple in the modern world. Tagle's approach to ministry is profoundly relational. He is known for his ability to listen deeply, to laugh easily, and to share stories that make faith come alive. In youth gatherings, whether in the bustling streets of Manila or at international events like World Youth Day, Tagle is approachable and present. He does not stand above the crowd. He walks among the people. His humility is not a performance, but a way of being, one that invites trust and openness from young people who are often skeptical of authority. One of the most striking aspects of Tagle's leadership is his embrace of the digital world. He recognizes that today's youth are digital natives, living much of their lives online. Rather than seeing social media as a threat, Tagle sees it as a mission field. He encourages young Catholics to become influencers for Christ, using their platforms to share the gospel, promote justice, and build communities of hope and solidarity. In his words, only Jesus will make us true influencers. For Tagle, the digital age is not a challenge to be feared, but an opportunity to be seized with creativity and courage. Tagle's presence on social media is marked by authenticity and joy. He shares personal stories, moments of vulnerability, and reflections that resonate with the struggles and dreams of young people. His online homilies and messages are filled with humor, empathy, and a deep sense of God's mercy. He does not shy away from difficult topics, whether it is mental health, loneliness, or the search for meaning in a noisy world. Instead, he meets youth where they are offering encouragement and reminding them that they are loved, valued, and never alone. For many young Catholics, Tagle's greatest gift is his ability to make faith accessible and relevant. He does not speak in abstract theological terms, but in the language of everyday life. He tells stories about his own doubts and failures, about the joys and pains of growing up, and about the ways God surprises us in ordinary moments. This honesty breaks down barriers and invites young people to bring their whole selves, their questions, their wounds, their hopes into their relationship with God and the Church. Tagle is also deeply committed to inclusion and compassion. He has spoken openly about the need for the Church to welcome those who have felt excluded: LGBTQ+ Catholics, divorced and remarried, individuals, migrants, and the poor. He acknowledges the Church's past failures and calls for a new language of mercy and understanding. For youth who have felt judged or marginalized, Tagle's message is a lifeline. You are not alone. You are loved. The Church is your home. At World Youth Day and similar gatherings, Tagle's presence is transformative. He does not merely deliver speeches. He engages in dialogue, listens to the stories of young people, and encourages them to become leaders in their own right. He challenges them to dream big, to serve others, and to use their gifts for the good of the world. His call to be seeds of unity and builders of bridges inspires youth to see themselves as protagonists of the Church's mission, not just passive recipients of tradition. Tagle's humility and vulnerability are not signs of weakness, but of strength. He is unafraid to admit when he does not have all the answers, and he invites others to join him in the journey of faith. This openness has earned him the respect and affection of young Catholics who are tired of rigid answers and distant authority. They see in Tagle a leader who is human, approachable, and genuinely interested in their lives. His advocacy for justice and peace also resonates with youth who are passionate about making a difference in the world. Tagle speaks out against poverty, violence, and environmental destruction, urging young people to become agents of change. He connects faith with action, showing that love for God must be expressed in love for neighbor and care for creation. His leadership during times of crisis, whether responding to natural disasters in the Philippines or advocating for migrants on the global stage, demonstrates a faith that is alive, courageous, and compassionate. For all these reasons, Cardinal Tagle has become a beloved figure among young Catholics. He represents a church that listens, welcomes, and empowers. His witness challenges the church to be more humble, more inclusive, and more responsive to the needs of a new generation. As the church continues to navigate the complexities of the digital age, Tagle's example offers a roadmap for how to engage youth with joy, authenticity, and hope. In the eyes of young Catholics, Tagle is not just a shepherd for today, he is a leader for the future. His ability to connect across cultures, to speak honestly about faith and doubt, and to inspire action makes him a vital presence in the life of the Church. Whether or not he ever becomes Pope, his legacy will be felt in the hearts and lives of young people who have found in him a true companion on the journey of faith. Part 3. Pope Leo XIV. A new chapter, new questions. The election of Pope Leo XIV marked a turning point not only for the Vatican, but for the hopes and anxieties of young Catholics across the globe. As the first American Pope, Leo XIV's rise was historic. For many youth, it was a moment of pride, curiosity, and even uncertainty. What would this new chapter mean for their lives, their faith, and their place in the Church? Would the new Pope understand their struggles and dreams, or would he be distant from the realities shaping a new generation? For many young Catholics, the papal transition was a moment of awakening. They watched the conclave unfold in real time on social media, in youth groups, and through live streams from St. Peter's Square. The excitement was palpable, but so was the anxiety. Pope Frank had been a beloved figure for youth, approachable, joyful, and unafraid to speak about the issues that matter most to young people. Would Pope Leo XIV continue this legacy or chart a new course? Leo XIV's background as a missionary in Latin America and his experience in the Vatican gave him a reputation for bridge building and humility. He was seen as a man of prayer, a listener and a leader who valued unity over division. For many young Catholics, these qualities offered hope that the Church would remain open, inclusive, and relevant. His first words as Pope, calling for peace, dialogue, and an open Church, were met with enthusiasm by youth who long for a faith community that welcomes all. Yet questions quickly followed. Would Leo XIV be able to connect with youth as Pope Francis had? Would he address the pressing issues that shape their daily lives? Mental health, social justice, climate change, and the role of women and minorities in the Church. Would he empower young people, not only as future leaders, but as protagonists in the Church today? Young Catholics are not passive observers. They are keenly aware of the challenges facing the Church and the world. Many are passionate about social justice, environmental stewardship, and the inclusion of marginalized groups. They want a Pope who is not afraid to speak out against injustice, who listens to their concerns and who values their contributions. Leo XIV's early gestures, appointing women to key Vatican roles, supporting migrants and refugees, and calling for unity, sparked hope that he would be a pope for all people, especially the young. However, Leo XIV's style is more reserved and contemplative than his predecessors. Some youth worry that he may not be as visible or as vocal on social media and in youth gatherings. They hope for a pope who will not only lead from Rome, but who will also be present at World Youth Day campus ministries, and the digital spaces where young Catholics gather. For many priests, the NCE is as important as policy. A leader who walks with them, listens to their stories, and shares in their joys and struggles. The questions young people have for Pope Leo XIV are direct and urgent. Will he continue to open the doors of the Church to those who have felt excluded, LGBTQ+ Catholics, divorced and remarried couples, those who struggle with faith or mental health? Will he champion the causes that matter most to youth? Justice, peace, care for creation, and the dignity of every person. Will he trust young people with real responsibility, inviting them to be not just participants, but leaders in the Church's mission? These questions are not just for the Pope, but for the whole Church. Young Catholics are challenging their pastors, bishops, and fellow parishioners to be more inclusive, more courageous, and more willing to change. They are asking for a Church that is honest about its failures, transparent about its processes, and willing to listen to critique. They want a community that is not afraid to confront difficult truths, to seek forgiveness, and to begin again. Pope Leo XIV's response to these questions will shape his legacy among the young. His willingness to engage with youth, to listen to their hopes and fears, and to empower them as leaders will determine whether this new chapter is one of renewal or of missed opportunity. For now, young Catholics are watching, praying, and hoping that their voices will be heard. In this new era, the relationship between the Pope and young Catholics is more dynamic than ever. Social media, global travel, and digital communication have made it possible for youth to connect with Church leaders in ways unimaginable just a generation ago. They are no longer content to be silent or sidelined. They want to be partners in the Church's mission, co-creators of its future. For Pope Leo XIV, the challenge and the opportunity are clear. If he can build on the legacy of Francis, deepen the Church's commitment to justice and inclusion, and walk with youth in their journey of faith, he will inspire a new generation to embrace the gospel with courage and hope. If he listens, truly listens to the voices of young Catholics, the Church will not only survive but thrive in a world hungry for meaning, belonging, and love. The story of Pope Leo XIV is still being written. For young Catholics, it is a story of possibility, a chance to shape the Church they love, and to be shaped by leaders who see, hear, and value them. In this unfolding chapter, the voices of youth are not just important, they are essential. Part 4: Social Media and the Digital Church. For young Catholics today, the digital world is not just a backdrop to their lives. It is where much of their faith questioning and community building happens. The election of Pope Leo XIV, the first American pontiff, has only intensified this reality as the Church enters a new era. Both Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle are seen through the lens of social media, digital engagement, and the urgent need for authentic connection in an age of information overload. Pope Leo XIV himself has spoken directly about the power and pitfalls of social media. In a 2023 interview, he acknowledged that social media can be an important tool to communicate the gospel message reaching millions of people. We must prepare ourselves to use social media well. He warned, however, that there is a great responsibility to use social networks communication correctly because it is an opportunity, but it is also a risk, and it can do damage to the communion of the Church. That is why one must be very prudent in the use of these means. This nuanced approach resonates with young Catholics who are acutely aware of both the creative and destructive power of digital platforms. Leo XIV's own social media history reveals a leader who is not afraid to engage with contemporary issues, even controversial ones. As Cardinal Prevost, he used his platform to speak out against anti-immigrant rhetoric, criticize policies he saw as unjust, and advocate for the dignity of migrants and refugees. He has also shown caution emphasizing the need to think carefully before responding online, knowing that there is sometimes the danger of exacerbating divisions and controversies. For youth, this combination of courage and prudence is appealing. They want leaders who are not silent in the face of injustice, but who also value unity and thoughtful dialogue. The response from Catholic youth organizations to Leo XIV's election has been enthusiastic and prayerful. The National Federation for Catholic Youth Ministry, NFCYM for example, lifted up young people in prayer, expressing hope that Pope Leo XIV would champion their dignity, energy, and faith, calling forth their gifts and walking alongside them as they lead us now and into the future. This sentiment is echoed in youth groups and campus ministries worldwide, where there is a longing for a church that not only acknowledges young people, but actively empowers them as missionary disciples. Social media has also made the Vatican more accessible and transparent to young Catholics. The conclave and the first Mass of Pope Leo XIV were followed in real time on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, with youth sharing reactions, prayers, and even memes. This digital engagement is not superficial. It is a sign of a generation that wants to participate, to be informed, and to feel close to the heart of the Church. Pope Leo XIV's inaugural Mass, where he prayed that the Church would become a city on a hill, an ark of salvation, navigating the waters of history, and a light that brightens the dark nights of this world, was shared and discussed widely among young Catholics who are searching for meaning and hope in turbulent times. Yet young people are not naive about the dangers of the digital age. They know that misinformation, polarization, and online conflict can easily undermine the sense of communion. The CHurch strives to build. Pope Leo XIV's warnings about the risks of social media echo their own experiences. Many youth leaders and digital missionaries are working to create online spaces that are safe, welcoming, and grounded in faith. A digital field hospital in the spirit of Pope Francis and Cardinal Tagle. Cardinal Tagle's digital presence is similarly marked by authenticity and joy. He encourages youth to be influencers for Christ, using their platforms to share hope, justice, and the gospel. His online homilies and messages are filled with humor, empathy, and a deep sense of God's mercy. Tagle does not shy away from difficult topics, meeting young people where they are, and reminding them that their voices matter. For young Catholics, the digital church is not a replacement for real-life community, but a vital extension of it. They want leaders who are present both online and offline, who understand the language and culture of youth, and who are willing to engage in honest conversation. Pope Leo XIV's careful but open approach to social media, along with Tagle's joyful digital evangelization, offers a model for how the Church can accompany young people in the digital age. As the Church moves forward, the challenge will be to harness the power of digital media for good, to build bridges, foster dialogue, and proclaim the gospel in new and creative ways. Young Catholics are ready to lead this mission. They are looking to Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle, not just for guidance, but for partnership. They want a church that listens, empowers, and trusts them to be co-creators of the future. In this new chapter, the digital church is a space of encounter, creativity, and hope. It is where young Catholics gather to pray, to question, to celebrate, and to dream. With leaders like Pope Leo Cardinal Tagle, the Church has the opportunity to become, in Leo's words, a light that brightens the dark nights of this world, both online and everywhere. Young hearts are searching for God. Part 5. The LGBTQ+ question, hope, and tension. For young Catholics, one of the most pressing and personal issues facing the Church today is its approach to LGBTQ+ inclusion. This question is not just theological or abstract. It is woven into the daily lives, friendships, and families of youth across the globe. The way church leaders speak, act, and listen on this topic shapes not only the faith journeys of LGBTQ+ Catholics themselves, but also the trust and engagement of an entire generation. In the era of Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle, the conversation has reached a new level of urgency and visibility. Many young Catholics have grown up in societies where LGBTQ+ people are increasingly visible, accepted, and protected by law. They have friends, siblings, and classmates who are openly gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. For them, the question is not whether LGBTQ+ people belong in the church, but how the church can better reflect the love and inclusion of churches. They long for a spiritual home where everyone is welcomed, valued, and able to participate fully in the life of the community. Cardinal Tagle's record on LGBTQ+ inclusion has made him a figure of hope for many young Catholics. He has spoken openly about the need for the Church to use less judgmental language to listen to the real experiences of LGBTQ+ people and to avoid treating anyone as an outsider. Tagle has acknowledged the pain caused by harsh words and exclusion, and he has called for a new language of mercy and understanding. In gatherings with youth, he encourages them to stop labeling and discriminating, to recognize the gifts and dignity of every person, and to build communities of respect and compassion. Tagle's approach is not about changing doctrine overnight, but about changing hearts. He invites young people to be influencers for Christ by welcoming those who have felt rejected and by standing up for justice and inclusion. His message resonates with youth who are tired of culture wars and who want the Church to be a place of healing, not division, for LGBTQ+ Catholics and their friends. Tagle's witness is a sign that the Church can be both faithful to its teachings and open to new ways of accompaniment.
Pope Leo XIV,
while less outspoken than Tagle, has inherited a church where the conversation about LGBTQ+ rights is unavoidable. His early statements as Pope have emphasized the dignity of every person and the need for the Church to walk with those on the margins. Leo XIV's background as a missionary and his experience in diverse cultural contexts give him a nuanced perspective. He understands that the journey toward greater inclusion is complex, involving not only theology but also pastoral care, cultural realities, and the lived experiences of millions of Catholics. Young people are watching closely to see how Pope Leo XIV will respond. They hope for continuity with the openness of Pope Francis, but also for concrete action and clear pastoral support. Many want to see the Church move beyond statements of welcome to real changes in practice, greater participation of LGBTQ+ people in parish life support for families, and public opposition to discrimination and violence. They are eager for a Church that is not afraid to speak out for justice, even when it is controversial. The tension between tradition and change is real. Some young Catholics, especially in more conservative communities, worry that too much openness could lead to confusion or a loss of identity. Others feel that the Church's credibility is at stake, and that failing to embrace LGBTQ+ people fully will alienate a generation. These debates are not always easy, but they reflect a deep desire for a Church that is honest, courageous, and loving. In youth groups, online forums, and campus ministries, the LGBTQ+ question is a frequent topic of discussion. Young Catholics share stories of friends who have left the Church because they felt unwelcome, and of others who have found hope in communities that practice radical hospitality. They debate the meaning of church, teaching the role of conscience, and the call to accompany one another on the journey of faith. For many, the conversation is not about winning arguments, but about building a church where every person can encounter the love of Christ. Tagle's witness continues to inspire. He does not offer easy answers, but he models a way of being church that is humble, listening, and open to the Spirit. His willingness to admit past mistakes, to apologize for harm done, and to invite youth into a new language of mercy has made him a trusted guide for many. Pope Leo XIV's leadership will be tested by how he responds to these hopes and tensions, whether he can build bridges, foster dialogue, and lead the Church toward a more inclusive future. For young Catholics, the LGBTQ+ question is not just about policy or doctrine. It is about friendship, family, and the heart of the gospel. It is about whether the Church can be a home for all, or whether it will remain a place of fear and exclusion for some. The way forward will require courage, humility, and a willingness to listen deeply to the voices of those who have too often been silenced. In this pivotal moment, youth are not waiting passively for change. They are leading conversations, creating safe spaces, and challenging the Church to embody the radical welcome of Jesus. They are praying, hoping, and working for a day when every person can hear. In the words of the Church, the unconditional love that Christ offers to all. Part 6. Justice, peace, and the cry for relevance. For young Catholics, faith is not just about personal piety or private devotion. It is a call to action, a summons to transform the world in the spirit of the gospel. Across continents, youth are raising their voices for justice and peace, demanding that the Church be a credible force for good in society. In the era of Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle, these expectations have grown even stronger as young people look for leaders who will not only speak about justice, but embody it in concrete, courageous ways. Cardinal Tagle has long been a champion of social justice, and his example resonates deeply with youth who want to see faith put into practice. He has spoken out against poverty, corruption, and violence, urging Catholics to stand with the oppressed and to work for systemic change. Tagle's leadership in Caritas Internationalis brought him face to face with the suffering of migrants, refugees, and victims of natural disasters. He has called on young people to be builders of bridges, to cross boundaries of race, class, and culture, and to become agents of reconciliation in a divided world. Tagle's message is clear. The gospel is not just about personal salvation, but about the transformation of society. He challenges youth to connect their faith with action, to volunteer, to advocate for the marginalized, and to use their talents for the common good. His humility and willingness to serve alongside the poor make him a credible witness, someone who does not just talk about justice, but lives it. For many young Catholics, Tagle's example is a powerful antidote to cynicism and despair. Pope Leo XIV, too, has made justice and peace central themes of his pontificate. In his first homily as Pope, he called the Church to be a city on a hill, a beacon of hope in a world darkened by war, inequality, and indifference. He has spoken about the need for the Church to be present in the peripheries of society, places where suffering is greatest and hope is most fragile. Leo XIV's background as a missionary in Latin America gives him a deep understanding of the struggles faced by the poor and the excluded. His support for migrants, his advocacy for the environment, and his calls for dialogue and peace have inspired youth who want a church that is not afraid to take risks for the sake of the gospel. Young Catholics are passionate about a wide range of justice issues. They march for climate action, volunteer in soup kitchens, campaign against human trafficking, and advocate for the rights of indigenous peoples. They are deeply concerned about mental health, gun violence, and the rise of authoritarianism. For them, the credibility of the Church depends on its willingness to address these issues honestly and courageously. They want leaders who will not only pray for peace, but work for it, who will not only preach about justice, but fight for it. The cry for relevance is especially strong among youth who feel that the Church is sometimes out of touch with the realities of modern life. They want a faith that speaks to their experience, that addresses the questions and struggles they face every day. Many are inspired by the Church's social teaching, but they are also impatient for change. They want to see more women in leadership, greater transparency in decision-making, and a stronger commitment to inclusion and diversity. Both Tagle and Pope Leo XIV have recognized the importance of empowering young people as leaders. They have called for youth to be missionary disciples, to take initiative in their parishes, schools, and communities. They have encouraged young Catholics to use their voices, their creativity, and their networks to build a more just and peaceful world. For many youth, this is an invitation not just to participate in the Church, but to transform it from within. Yet there are also frustrations and disappointments. Some young Catholics feel that Church leaders talk about justice and peace, but are slow to act. Others worry that the Church's structures are too rigid, its priorities too inward-looking. They want more than words. They want action, accountability, and real change. The challenge for Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle is to harness the energy and idealism of youth, to listen to their critiques, and to walk with them in the struggle for a better world. In this moment of history, the cry for justice and peace is a summons to the whole Church. It is a call to return to the heart of the gospel, to stand with the poor, to defend the dignity of every person, and to work tirelessly for the common good. Young Catholics are ready to lead this mission. They are looking to their leaders not just for inspiration, but for partnership. They want a Church that is bold, compassionate, and unafraid to get its hands dirty in the work of love. As the Church moves forward, the witness of Tagle and Pope Leo XIV will be measured not just by their words, but by their willingness to act. For young Catholics, the path of justice and peace is not an optional extra. It is the very heart of what it means to follow Christ. They are ready to walk this path, and they are calling the whole Church to join them. Part in tradition, change, and the search for identity. For young Catholics, the tension between tradition and change is a living daily reality. They are heirs to a faith that stretches back 2,000 years, rich in ritual doctrine and culture. Yet they are also citizens of a world marked by rapid transformation where new questions and challenges emerge with dizzying speed. Navigating this landscape, young people are searching for an identity that is both rooted and dynamic, faithful and open, ancient and ever new. Cardinal Tagle's ability to honor tradition while embracing change has made him a bridge between generations. He speaks often about the beauty of the Church's heritage, the wisdom of the saints, the power of the sacraments, the depth of Catholic spirituality. He encourages young people to discover these treasures for themselves, not as museum pieces, but as living sources of strength and inspiration. Tagle's storytelling, his references to scripture and church history, and his joyful celebration of liturgy invite youth to see tradition as a gift, not a burden. At the same time, Tagle is unafraid to acknowledge the need for renewal. He listens to the questions and struggles of young people, admitting that the Church does not have all the answers. He encourages honest dialogue about issues like sexuality, mental health, and the role of women and laity in the Church. For Tagle, faith is not about suppressing doubt or ignoring pain, but about bringing every part of our lives into conversation with God. His humility and openness give young Catholics permission to wrestle with their own questions, to seek truth with courage, and to trust that God is present in the journey. Pope Leo XIV faces a similar challenge. As the new leader of a global church, he must hold together a community that is diverse in culture, language, and experience. His first months as Pope have shown a respect for tradition, celebrating Mass in Latin, honoring the memory of past popes, and reaffirming the Church's core teachings. But he has also signaled a willingness to listen to new voices, to consult widely, and to consider reforms that will help the Church respond to the needs of the present age. For young Catholics, this balancing act is crucial. They do not want a church that abandons its roots or chases every passing trend, but neither do they want a church that is frozen in time, afraid to engage with the world as it is. They are looking for leaders who can hold the tension between fidelity and creativity, who can help them find meaning in tradition while also empowering them to shape the future. The search for identity is especially acute for youth who feel caught between different cultures, generations, or ways of thinking. Many are children of immigrants navigating the expectations of their families and the realities of their new homes. Others are converts or seekers drawn to the beauty of Catholicism, but unsure how to reconcile it with their own experiences and values. For all of them, the Church's ability to welcome, accompany, and empower is a test of its relevance and vitality. Tagle's witness is especially powerful in this context. He often tells stories of his own struggles with faith, his questions as a young seminarian, and his journey toward deeper trust in God. He invites youth to see themselves as part of a larger story connected to believers across time and space. His message is one of hope, that God is always doing something new, even in the midst of uncertainty and change. Pope Leo XIV, too, has spoken about the need for the Church to be a home for all, a place where every person can find their true identity in Christ. He has called for greater participation of women and young people, for honest dialogue about difficult issues, and for a spirit of humility and listening. His leadership will be tested by how well he can hold together the Church's rich tradition and its call to ongoing renewal. For young Catholics, the journey of faith is not a straight line, but a winding path, full of questions, discoveries, and surprises. They are searching for an identity that is authentic, integrated, and open to the Spirit. They want a church that is not afraid of their questions, that values their contributions, and that trusts them to be co-creators of the future. In the end, the tension between tradition and change is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be embraced. It is the space where faith becomes real, where the Church is renewed, and where young people discover their unique place in God's story. With leaders like Tagle and Pope Leo XIV, the Church has the opportunity to walk this path with courage, humility, and hope, trusting that the Spirit will lead into all truths. Part 8. The global impact of Tagle's candidacy: promise, possibility, and tensions. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle's presence on the world stage is more than a personal story. It is a symbol of the Catholic Church's shifting center of gravity and a sign of hope for millions, especially among young Catholics. His candidacy for the papacy is not just about one man. It embodies the promise of a more inclusive, globally attuned, and compassionate Church. The impact of Tagle's leadership and the possibility of his election as Pope reverberate far beyond the Vatican, shaping conversations from the streets of Manila to the corridors of Rome and the digital spaces where young people gather. Tagle's influence is especially strong among Filipino Catholics and the Asian diaspora. His viral videos, singing, preaching, and engaging joyfully with youth have had a uniting and mobilizing effect, inspiring pride and hope in his homeland and beyond. Tagle's ability to connect emotionally, to speak with both passion and compassion, and to champion the poor and marginalized has made him a beloved figure. He is seen as a fresh, authentic voice in the Church, embodying the spirit of Pope Francis and bringing that spirit to new corners of the globe. As pro-prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, Tagle oversees the Church's missionary work worldwide, giving him a unique vantage point on the hopes and struggles of Catholics in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. His leadership at Caritas Internationalis further showcased his commitment to humanitarian work, even as it exposed him to challenges and criticism regarding administration. For many young Catholics, Tagle's hands-on approach baptizing hundreds of children from poor districts, advocating for climate justice, and calling youth to be influencers for Christ on social media makes faith feel alive, practical, and relevant. Tagle's global appeal is also rooted in his nuanced approach to complex issues. He is known for a moderate dialogical stance opposing abortion and euthanasia, while advocating for compassionate dialogue on questions like communion for divorced and remarried Catholics. This adaptability resonates with youth who desire a church that is faithful yet flexible, rooted in tradition, but open to new realities. His background with the Jesuits and his academic rigor add depth to his pastoral sensitivity, making him relatable and credible to a generation seeking both authenticity and wisdom. Yet Tagle's candidacy is not without tension. His progressive reputation, especially his criticism of harsh language toward LGBT Catholics and his openness to dialogue, has drawn criticism from traditionalists who fear a dilution of doctrine. Some point to his perceived lack of bureaucratic toughness and his handling of political and ecclesial controversies in the Philippines as weaknesses. Others worry about his diplomatic caution regarding China, especially given the sensitive situation of Chinese Catholics and the Vatican's ongoing engagement with Beijing. Still, his supporters argue that Tagle's gentle bridge-building approach is precisely what the Church needs in an era of polarization and global complexity. The Global South and Asia in particular see in Tagle a champion who represents their demographic and spiritual vitality. His multicultural background, multilingual ability, and sensitivity to intercultural realities position him as a leader who can help the Church embrace diversity and become truly global. Tagle's election would signal a historic shift, affirming the importance of voices from the peripheries and offering moral leadership on issues of justice, peace, and human dignity. For young Catholics, Tagle's candidacy is a source of pride and possibility. He calls them to action, urging them to use their gifts for the good of the world and to become agents of unity, justice, and care for creation. His presence in Rome is not just symbolic. It is shaping Vatican policy and helping the Church respond to the realities of a changing world. Whether or not he becomes Pope, Tagle's impact is already being felt in the hearts of youth, in the priorities of the global Church, and in the hope that the future can be more inclusive, compassionate, and attuned to the needs of all. In this pivotal moment, the promise and possibility of Tagle's leadership continue to inspire and challenge. For the Church, his candidacy is a call to embrace its global identity, to listen to the voices of the young and the marginalized, and to walk forward with humility, courage, and hope. Part 9. Critique, disappointment, and the call for authenticity. While Cardinal Tagle and Pope Leo XIV inspire hope and enthusiasm among many young Catholics, their leadership also faces honest critique and, at times, disappointment. This critical engagement is not a sign of rejection, but rather a testament to the passion and high expectations young people hold for their Church. For this generation, authenticity is not optional. It is essential. They yearn for leaders who are transparent, humble, and willing to admit mistakes. And they are unafraid to voice their concerns when reality falls short of ideals. Many young Catholics appreciate Cardinal Tagle's humility, his willingness to listen, and his efforts to include those who have often been excluded. However, some youth express frustration that the Church's welcoming words are not always matched by concrete actions. They share stories of friends who have left the Church because of experiences of judgment, exclusion, or a lack of support. Particularly LGBTQ+ individuals, women, and those struggling with mental health. Tagle's calls for mercy and dialogue are welcomed, but young people want to see these values reflected in parish life, in church policies, and in the daily actions of leaders at every level. Pope Leo XIV, too, is watched closely by young Catholics who are eager for change but wary of empty promises. while his early gestures appointing women to Vatican roles, speaking out for migrants, and calling for unity have been met with hope. Some youth worry that deeper reforms will stall. They question whether the Church will truly address the wounds of abuse, financial scandal, and clericalism, or whether it will retreat into caution and tradition. Young people want a pope who is not only a symbol of unity but also a catalyst for real lasting transformation. Social media has amplified these critiques, giving youth a platform to share their stories, organize for change, and hold leaders accountable. Hashtags, petitions, and online forums allow young Catholics to connect across continents, compare experiences, and demand transparency from their church. They celebrate moments of progress, but they also call out hypocrisy and injustice when they see it. For many, the credibility of church leaders depends not on eloquent speeches, but on their willingness to listen, to apologize, and to act with integrity. One recurring theme is the desire for greater honesty about the Church's history and present struggles. Young Catholics want leaders who will acknowledge past failures, especially in cases of abuse and cover-up, and who will work tirelessly to create safer, more accountable communities. They are inspired by leaders who admit their own limitations and who invite others into a journey of healing and renewal. Tagle's own admissions of past mistakes and his calls for forgiveness have resonated with many, but youth want these attitudes to become the norm, not the exception. The call for authenticity extends to every area of church life. Young people want liturgies that are meaningful and inclusive, homilies that speak to real-life issues, and ministries that address the needs of the poor, the marginalized, and the spiritually searching. They are impatient with bureaucracy, clerical privilege, and anything that feels inauthentic or disconnected from the gospel. For them, the Church's future depends on its ability to be real, to be a community where people can bring their whole selves with all their questions, doubts, and dreams. Despite their critiques, young Catholics remain deeply invested in the Church's mission. Their disappointment is often a sign of love, a desire to see the Church become the community of mercy, justice, and hope that it is called to be. They are willing to work for change, to serve in ministries, and to lead new initiatives, but they want to do so in a church that trusts them, values their voices, and is willing to grow alongside them. Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle have both spoken about the importance of listening to youth and empowering them as leaders. The test of their leadership will be whether they can move from words to action, creating spaces where young people are not just heard, but trusted with real responsibility. The future of the Church depends on this partnership, on a willingness to walk together in humility, courage, and faith. In the end, the call for authenticity is a call to return to the heart of the gospel. Young Catholics want a church that is honest about its wounds, bold in its hope, and humble in its service. They are ready to be part of this church, not as passive observers, but as co-creators of a future rooted in truth, justice, and love. Their critique is not a threat, but a gift. A prophetic voice calling the Church to deeper conversion and greater faithfulness to Christ. Part 10. The Future, a Church led by and for the young. As the Catholic Church stands at a crossroads, the voices and dreams of young Catholics are shaping what comes next. The journeys of Cardinal Tagle and Pope Leo XIV have both inspired and challenged this new generation, but the future of the Church will depend on how deeply it listens to, trusts, and empowers its youth. For young Catholics, the Church is not merely an institution to be inherited. It is a living community, a family and a mission field where their questions, gifts, and hopes matter. More than ever, young people want to be protagonists in the Church's story. They are not content to be passive recipients of tradition or to wait their turn for leadership. They are already leading in digital evangelization, social justice movements, campus ministries, and parish life. Their creativity, energy and willingness to dream big are transforming the Church from within. Cardinal Tagle's encouragement for youth to be influencers for Christ, and Pope Leo XIV's calls for young people to lead us now and into the future are not just slogans. They are invitations to real partnership and shared mission. The future church that young Catholics envision is one where authenticity is the norm, not the exception. They want leaders who are humble, transparent, and ready to admit mistakes. They seek communities that are welcoming to all, regardless of background, orientation, or struggles. They long for a church that is bold in justice, creative in outreach, and rooted in the Gospel's call to serve the poor and marginalized. For them, the Church's credibility will depend on its willingness to listen to change and to trust the Spirit moving in every generation. This vision is not without its challenges. There will be disagreements, growing pains, and moments of disappointment. Some will fear that too much change threatens the Church's identity. Others will worry that not enough change risks irrelevance. But young Catholics are not afraid of tension. They see it as the space where faith is tested, deepened, and made real. They are ready to wrestle with the hard questions and to walk with the Church through seasons of uncertainty and renewal. The journeys of Tagle and Pope Leo XIV offer models for this future. Tagle's humility, joy, and openness to dialogue have shown that leadership can be both strong and gentle, both faithful and adventurous. Pope Leo XIV's bridge-building and global perspective signal a church that is ready to embrace diversity and unity, tradition and innovation. Both leaders have called youth to step forward, not tomorrow, but today. What will it take for the Church to truly be led by and for the young? It will require trust. Trust in the Spirit. Trust in the gifts of youth, and trust in the process of synodality. Walking together, listening deeply, and discerning God's will as a community. It will require courage, the courage to try new things, to risk failure, and to speak the truth in love. It will require humility, the humility to let go of power, to admit when we are wrong, and to learn from those who see the world with fresh eyes. Already young Catholics are showing what this future can look like. They are organizing prayer vigils for peace, leading climate action campaigns, creating digital spaces for faith sharing and building friendships across boundaries of language and culture. They are asking hard questions about justice, inclusion, and the Church's mission in the world, and they are offering their hands and hearts to help build something new. The Church's path ahead will not be easy, but it is filled with promise. If the Church listens to its young people, empowers them as leaders, and walks with them in faith and hope, it will become ever more the community Christ calls it, to be humble, joyful, and alive with the Spirit. The story of young Catholics is still being read, and its next chapters will be shaped by their courage, their dreams, and their love. In the end, the future of the Church is not just about who leads from Rome, but about how every Catholic, young and old, answers the call to follow Christ, to serve others, and to build a world where all are welcome. With leaders like Tagle and Leo XIV, and with the faith and fire of a new generation, the Church can move forward with confidence, ready to embrace whatever the Spirit has in store.